Do you want the good news first or the bad news? I think you're a good news first bunch. This is the good news, and it's really good news. You can enjoy it. Parenting, all of it. You can enjoy every single age of your children, and you can do a great job. You can get through this season with grace and joy and build relationships with your children that last your entire life, their entire life. That's the good news. The bad news is, and it's not so bad, it takes hard work. Yes, it does. Hello there, I am Danielle, homeschooling mother of 7. On this YouTube channel, I like to talk about everything mom related, which includes cooking sometimes, cleaning, and homeschooling, and parenting. It is a hot topic, and if it's not a hot topic in your mind, it should be. Let's face it, this is a huge responsibility. I consider it a huge responsibility, a weight, and not a bad weight, but it should be felt. I want to talk about 3 key things in your parenting. 3 approaches that have been immeasurably helpful in my own parenting. Firstly, be slow to command. I say command loosely, but what I mean is when you say to your child, and maybe it doesn't sound like a command, but in your mind, you are letting them know this is what you expect of them when you say pick up your toys. Pick up your toys, please. It goes one of 2 ways. Either they do what you asked or they don't. It can only go 2 ways. But if they choose not to, and maybe that choice just means starting to whine, maybe it's a flat out no, maybe they ignore you entirely. If I'm constantly telling my kids something that I do want them to do or something that I don't want them to do, and not following up with those things that I've said, that is shooting yourself in the knees, dropping your clean canteen water bottle on your foot. It is hurting you. It is hurting your parenting. Children are so smart. They're so intuitive, and they have our number. You know they do. If there is an expectation from your children that you do not follow through on the things that you ask of them, they will not do the things that you've asked of them. Obviously, each child is different. Some personalities are just eager to obey, eager to please, and many other children are interested in finding whatever loopholes in not actually doing what they're told that they can find. So I have found in parenting my kids, do not give them a command that I am not willing to follow up with. And this takes a lot of self-control. It's really easy from the couch to say, kids, time for bed, go get in bed. That's a command you know they're not gonna do. Oh, maybe yours are. Get in bed, there's just too many steps to get there. So wherever you're at in your children listening to you and your children doing what they are told the first time, this is where you have to start, is to rein yourself in and not give out a bunch of commands. And then when you do give out something, please pick up your toys. Be ready to have that battle. Whatever that battle looks like to you, be ready to win it. I don't want you to take what I'm saying out of context in the sense that I am talking about parenting well. I'm not talking about parenting badly. I'm not talking about being domineering over your kids. My intention is always to raise children who are learning to govern themselves, are learning to exercise self-control, are learning to express themselves without emotion that goes all over the place. You know, we all have emotions, and it is our job as parents to teach them how to regulate their emotions. And even when they have big ideas and big feelings about what they want to do, to use a mental process to get to a place where they can not only think about what they want, but to think about the world around them. So listen to yourself for a day and see how many things you're putting out there and those things are not getting done. See how many requests you are putting out there and those requests are not being met with obedience. The next tip is to be intentional. Now, this word is such a very deep word. It has a lot of depth.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
This is how I would express it in the context of what I'm talking about. To be intentional in parenting is to pre-think out how you would like to do things or what you would like to see. And then to backtrack and see, how do I get to that point? I would like to see my kids responding to my request the first time with obedience. So I have to be intentional. First, for one, I can't be spouting off my mouth all the time and giving them things to do without following up. That is going to teach them, just by my inconsistency, that I do not mean what I say. We do have the parental reins here. We need to keep them. And in order to keep that respect with our children, they need to believe that mom means what she says. So when I say, pick up your toys, please, I have already pre-thought out what I'm going to do if it goes wrong, if they make the wrong choice, which is to disobey. Am I going to get down on the floor and help them obey? Am I going to stand there and have the battle to where I said, no, you cannot do anything else until you have obeyed? Am I going to bring them in the bathroom and give them a timeout? Am I going to give them a spanking? As you're building in these areas, if you really haven't done these things before, if you haven't been super intentional, if you've been spouting off your mouth frequently and not following up, then I recommend going really easy in the beginning, which might look like this. Okay, it's time to clean up the toys. and you get down there and you help them clean up every single one. And so they've learned that when mommy says it's an instant response, and maybe you've already given them that we're going to clean up in 5 minutes. However you do it to act fairly and to act justly with your kids so they're not blindsided all the time. If it's a huge mess, I'm never going to tell my young kids, clean up your toys now, because just the sheer big mess of it is too overwhelming. So I will help them get control of the mess first, and then I will say, okay, you clean up this bin and I will clean up this bin. The whole point with intention is that you are building a success rate. Every single time you ask your children to do something, I'm requiring them to obey, and then they obey. And that is what our goal is, to build up that pattern so it is a habit with your kids to obey the first time, and it is a habit with you to be slow to speak and to use intention with what you're doing. 3, like I said, these all go together, consistency. This isn't something that I recommend doing 9 times and then the 10th time you sit on the couch and you don't follow up. That is why the first one is be slow to speak about your commands, because you have to be consistent after you command something, after you request something, so that your kids are always getting the idea that mom means what she says. This saves us moms so much frustration. And you know that a lack of joy in parenting comes when we just feel frustrated. None of us are perfectly consistent, but that should be part of our intention in parenting, even with the older kids. Obviously, these habits, I think, or methods that we use in our parenting should start really young. But if you haven't, we still want to engage with these methods, even with older kids. So there's a reliability from their parents. So there's a consistency in our parents that even our older kids know how we're going to respond, how we're going to react to things that isn't explosive. You don't take breaks from this thing.
It's
good. Parenting requires instruction and education. And I have read a lot of books and I've had a lot of experience. I'm always tweaking things because I want to do this the best I can. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, obviously, never perfect. Comparing yourself to other moms, never a good thing. But learning from other moms, seeing the way kids respond to their moms and then asking questions, always a good thing. I've been passionate about this my entire parenting journey. I was at a homeschool convention and I was just sitting looking at the pamphlet, and I looked up and I saw a family. There were 6 kids and they were pretty young, and they were all going one direction, and they just looked like they were responding well to their parents. I got up, I walked with those parents, and I started talking to them. I said, what do you do? How do you parent your children? These kids look like they're so well behaved. They look like they're having fun. And we had a conversation. It doesn't mean that you adopt everything they do. You just gather information so you can figure out what will work good for me. What will my kids respond well to? It's really easy to read books and then to say, okay, this looks like it works. It works on paper. Let's do it. But in real life, things aren't that simple. They aren't that cut and dry. And it's so good to ask questions of other moms. If you see a family and you see that you really like the way the kids behave, you like the dynamic of the family, ask questions, get a mentor. Jesus, I'm talking too much. Fellow parents everywhere, thank you for joining me today, and I sure appreciate you listening. And for you mamas out there, no one can mom your kids like you. I'll see you next time.